It's the middle of the week and time for Wednesday Reading. Our Wednesday Reading learning goal is to analyze a complex set of ideas or sequence of events and explain how those specific individuals, ideas, or events interact and develop over the course of that particular text, whether that be fiction or nonfiction. At the end of today's lesson, you'll be asked to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 4, a 4 being that you're able to bring together the ideas in terms of how they relate. This happens through connections made between ideas, people, or events. The conclusions you draw are logical and incorporate the ideas presented by the author. And finally, there is a meaning made in the sense that you apply the material to your own life. If you're at a 3, which is kind of where we want everyone to be by the end of these Wednesday readings, it means you're able to bring together ideas in terms of how they relate, and this happens through those connections made between ideas, people, or events, and the conclusions you draw are logical and incorporate the ideas presented by the author, but you might not be able to apply them to your own life. If you're at a 2, that means you're able to bring together the ideas in terms of how they relate, and this happens through those connections between ideas, people, and events, but you struggle to draw effective conclusions about the material. And if you're at a 1, that means that you can recognize the content in the material, but you struggle to see any relationships or draw any connections or draw any conclusions about them. So as you read today and complete this assignment, consider where you're at in your ability to accomplish that learning goal. All right, Wednesday reading, let's get to it.
Short selling is a risky way to profit from declining stock prices. Basically, it is a bet against a stock or company. When you buy a stock, you expect the price to go up. On the other hand, when you short a stock, you expect the price to go down. Shorting a stock is the inverse of buying a stock, which is often referred to as going long. Here's Jack. Jack has heard that Goliath National Bank is in financial trouble and expects their stock price to go down. In order to profit from his prediction, Jack will short GNB. But how does this work? Jack calls his broker and tells him that he wants to short 1 share of GNB. To do this, the broker needs to find 1 share to lend to Jack. The broker can look at a few different places, including his stock inventory and his clients' portfolios. If he still can't find the stock, he can ask other brokers. Jack's broker finds the share in one of his clients' portfolios and borrows it. The broker will then sell the share on the market for Jack. GNB stock was trading at $100, which will be credited to Jack's brokerage account. Jack was right. After a week, GNB's financial struggles are made public and the stock price drops to $70. Because the stock price dropped and Jack made a bet against the stock, Jack stands to make a profit by buying back or covering GNB. Jack calls his broker and tells him to cover his position in GNB. The broker uses the money from Jack's brokerage account to buy 1 share of the stock from the market at the current price of $70 and returns the stock to his client's portfolio. Jack sold GNB stock for $100 and bought it back for $70. Awesome. Jack made a profit of $30. Jack also has to pay a small fee to the broker for the right to borrow the stock. Short selling is for advanced traders because it can be extremely risky. Unlike buying a stock or going long, where your losses are limited, your losses are unlimited when you short. To explain how your losses are unlimited, consider this graph of price versus profit. Let's say you buy a stock for $100. The most you can possibly lose is the amount that you paid for it, in this case $100. As the stock price goes up, your profits will continue to go up as well. Theoretically, there is no limit to how high the price can go. Now consider that you have shorted the same stock at $100. In this case, you profit when the price decreases. The most you could stand to make is the price that you shorted at, in this case $100. However, as the price goes up, your losses go up. And since there is no limit to how high the stock price can go up, theoretically there is no limit to how much you can lose. While shorting is an effective way to make money when stock prices go down, make use of stop orders to minimize your risk. To practice short selling risk-free, sign up at wallstreetsurvivor.com.
At its peak in the late 90s, Blockbuster owned over 9,000 video rental stores in the United States, employed 84,000 people worldwide, and had 65 million registered customers. Once valued as a $3 billion company, in just 1 year, Blockbuster earned $800 million in late fees alone. Blockbuster Video, wow! But fast forward a decade, and Blockbuster ceased to exist, having filed for bankruptcy with over $900 million in debt. So, what happened? While Blockbuster and its new boss, John Antioco, focused on brick-and-mortar video stores, technological innovations meant that competition was on the rise. In 1997, Reed Hastings founded Netflix, a DVD-by-mail rental service at the time, in part after being frustrated with a $40 late fee from Blockbuster. 2 years later, having passed on an opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million, Blockbuster teamed up with Enron to create a video on-demand service. In a deal that saw Enron do most of the work, a robust video on-demand platform was successfully built and tested with customers. But it soon became clear to Enron that Blockbuster was so focused on its lucrative video stores that it had little time or commitment for the video on-demand business. As a result, in 2001, Blockbuster walked away from the first major development of wide-scale movie streaming. Within a few years, Netflix and other competitors began to eat into Blockbuster's profits, not by undercutting it, but by reimagining video rental in the digital age. One can only speculate about what could have been for the once home movie giant.
They were too busy making money in their video stores to imagine a time when people would no longer want or need them. And in a bid to rescue their business, their answer at the time was to fight fire with fire. At one point, they even opened up rental kiosks, a little bit like a vending machine. But all of these attempts were based on either outdated technology or outdated business models. Whereas Netflix at the time, they did the opposite. They streamlined. They were able to see the future of video rentals and then innovate for that future. Blockbuster, they didn't seem to understand how the next generation, particularly millennials who grew up in a world without hard copy media like DVDs and CDs, how they would react to video on demand as technology improved. And that's why Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube and Hulu, they're still all in business whilst Blockbuster got left behind.
So you're probably wondering, like, what does this have to do with GameStop? I thought this assignment was about GameStop. We just watched a video about short selling and Blockbuster and Netflix. Like, what in the world? Well, that's just another example of sort of what happened here. But there weren't Redditors to come to Blockbuster's rescue the same way that there were for GameStop. If you are a gamer or if you're familiar with what is happening with games and gaming, in that you can download them, they're streaming, much in the same way that Netflix is necessary, or has sort of gone that way, right? Things are stored in the cloud. You don't need a brick and mortar building to go rent games anymore. Just like technically we don't need GameStop anymore. And that was something that hedge fund managers knew. And so they went to short sell it. And they thought GameStop's done. GameStop is a company that's going to go under. They're going to close a bunch of stores. It's just not going to work for them. Well, essentially what happened is a whole bunch of people, millennial-ish, 30s, 20s, 30s, kind of said, yeah, my childhood is in that store and it's not going under. I know the world, the gaming world is sort of going this direction with streaming and cloud and that sort of thing. But I'm not going to let GameStop go under. And so like a whole bunch of people just sort of overpowered hedge fund managers by saying, we're not going to let this go under, and you are going to have to pay. And if you remember from the video, if a profit doesn't, or if a company doesn't go under, if you bet it to short sell, you can lose a lot of money. And that is essentially what happened. The Redditors bought the stock and kept the company afloat. In a tab at the right is a story about GameStop, a business that in theory should go under for this very same reasons that Blockbuster did. But a certain group of people said, no way, we're not letting that happen on our watch. And so go ahead and open that article now and read that. Where it says, on January 11th, GameStop announced its sales overall fell 3.1% during the holidays, due in part to significant impacts of the pandemic. But its e-commerce sales soared 300%. It said those online sales represented about a third of the company's total sales. The company also said that it had entered an agreement with RC Ventures, one of its largest stockholders, to add 3 members to GameStop's board of directors. The new members include Ryan Cohen, a founder of Chewy, an online pet products company worth $42 billion. Then, on January 13th, 2 days after the announcement about Cohen joining the board, GameStop stock jumped 57% from $19.95 per share to $31.40 per share. The stock got its kick when Reddit's Wall Street Bets community, now with more than 4 million members, fawned over a November 16th letter from Cohen to the GameStop board he would later join. So what I think is interesting here is back up here a little bit, where it says GameStop announced that its sales overall fell 3.1% during the holidays. So people aren't buying from GameStop. Normally, a stock will increase when it's getting a lot of business, it's selling a lot of product, it's growing, right? Well, that's not the case here. In GameStop's case, like, sales fell 3.1% during the holidays, but e-commerce sales soared more than 300%. It is said that those online sales represented about a third of the company's sales. So the company said that it entered this agreement, and people basically said, no, we're not going to let this company fail. It means too much to us. And hedge fund managers, it's just a rich getting richer thing, and at least that's how they viewed it. And they wanted to sort of fight back, and you'll see later in the article that it caught the eye of some high-level politicians as well, and they had some things to say about it. It was sort of a global event in that sense, and that's just a couple of things that I wanted to point out when it comes to Wednesday reading and sort of understanding the bigger picture of what's going on in a given situation. So right now, what I want you to do of the article, what do you think the author's trying to tell us? And how do you know that the author's trying to tell us that? And now let's move into if-then statements. So based on what you've read here in this article, what 3 statements can you say that maybe you find some inconsistencies or questions about the topic itself? If this, then why this? I'm just looking for inconsistencies. Give me 3. Do your first one now, your second one now, and your third one now. And lastly, if you would, find another article related to GameStop. You might even search GameStock. That was another keyword that might send you down the path of finding articles about this topic. And tell me what was new in that article that maybe this one didn't cover, and then give me the link. And lastly, I suppose, record 1 minute of you reading this article and send it to me. You can do that on your phone. Just use like a voice memos app or something, and then send it to nathaniel.doimer@isd728.org. Now on the screen is your scale, your 4, 3, 2, 1. Where would you rate your ability to accomplish this learning goal? Upon completing this last question, you have earned your unit for today. Thanks.